I want to bring in something called iridology. And iridology is the color of your eyes. Okay, let's go around the room and say the color.
Hazel.
Hazel.
Green, brown, brown, but then they turn green when I get emotional. They get
Okay.
brown.
Okay.
Blue gray.
Blue gray.
Hazel.
Hazel. Okay. So we have a lot of mixed in here. There are three main colors in the iris. There's brown, where it's like really dark brown. Then we have the mixed, which most of you said you were. And we have one that's like blue-gray. Blue, it's called blue. So those are three different constitutions that we look at in iridology. So the iris is this part. So we've got the pupil, which is controlling the light. So we've got the pupil, and then we've got the iris, which are nerve fibers, and they're those three colors. And there's a genetic blueprint that we inherit based on our ancestors, our mother, father. So the left eye is more of the feminine mother, grandmother side, and the right is more of our father, grandfather side, okay? So I'm going to go through just generally, since you know what the color of your eyes are, what are your tendencies, okay? And there's a lot of different ways to read the iris. So first of all, when we do iridology, we're not diagnosing. I can't tell whether you're pregnant. I can't tell whether you have cancer. I can't tell whether you have a disease. Okay, so this is not a diagnostic tool. Also, the goal is not to change the color or the pigments by taking supplements. If you've ever known of anybody who's done iridology or had a reading and the iridologist says, well, the goal is to change your color, so buy these supplements, you don't want to do that. Because the people that are really doing iridology, and I got trained very intensively in it, I had to take all kinds of tests to get certified, and the people that trained me where I learned it, basically that's not the goal of changing the color of your iris. So there's two main things in what we're looking at. Number one, the color of the iris, and number two, if you have any pigments in the eyes. So I could kind of go around with my magnifier and I could look to see if you have any pigments, okay? Now, the iris is a map of the body. How many here have heard of reflexology? Okay, so you see a map of the bottom of the foot, and this part of the foot is the liver, that part of the foot is the gallbladder, and so on. Over hundreds of years of doctors making diagrams of the iris based on health conditions, we can pretty much tell, based on the markings of your iris, what your genetics are saying, and number two, what are your own health concerns that you should be nurturing. Now, more specifically, what are we talking about health concerns? Okay, we're talking about endocrine health, we're talking about connective tissue in the body, we're talking about your mental focus, your emotional patterns, your personality. So there's a lot of different levels to reading into a person's iris. In fact, the pupil, if the pupil isn't completely round, like let's say part of the pupil is cut off or it's flat, the pupil maps perfectly to our spinal health. And we can actually see, based on where the pupil is not completely round, what part of the spinal cord is having a problem. And chiropractors then can use, I use it when I do cranial work, the pupil can tell us about the spine, and then the inside part here tells us about our digestive health. So that's another thing. Do we have inflammation? Do we have a tendency towards, autoimmune conditions? What's our digestive health like? What kind of foods should we be eating? Not so much supplements, but foods. Also in the markings, we can see liver health. We can see thyroid health. We can see heart health. We can see pancreas health. So by looking at the markings, we can really assess individually, like making it very individualized, this is what you should be doing. This is why you go on the internet and you go, oh, for eye health, I should be eating carrots. Okay, that's a nice general thing. But what's going on in your specific liver? If you've got a brown pigment, that's a liver sign. So that means that you've got to nurture your liver. So probably doing a liver cleanse once or twice a year would be a really good thing, not only for your eyes, but for your body. I was trained by naturopaths. There was not one eye doctor in my iridology class, not one. You go to eye doctors, right? They're looking at the iris. They have no idea on the mapping of the iris as it relates to your health. That's why the eyes don't lie.